Welcome back, friends. Now we are going to move up to the 2946, the channel of discovery. This is one of my most favorite channels. I have the 29, my husband has the 46, and it's been a very interesting 30 years walking on this planet with him, discovering. So, where you should be is you've seen the 41 to the 30, that channel of recognition, that ability to, hone in on and recognize one feeling at a time and move up into the inexperience based off of honing in one feeling. So that whole piece of inexperience to experience, one experience at a time, leads to the 35th gate from the 36 of crisis, that inexperience, up to the 35, that progression. And each brand new experience either takes us into a progression for the collective or a regressive state if we're not entering it correctly. So we saw that in the 5342 because this is all cyclical. So the 5342 is saying you must be correct. It has to be the correct decision through clarity before entering into anything, so that each experience provides this accomplishment of progression. Now we're going to move up to discovery. So really, what are we discovering? So the channel of discovery, this design of succeeding where others fail. Again, repetition, past, abstract collective, sharing, visual. This is also a generative channel. Now the business and the family dynamics, I've actually put slides in here, so this one's going to be a fairly long one, so that you can see the business skills and the family dynamic that gets pulled out or pulled into as a family. And I'll explain that a little more. So both gates are in the quarter of duality, so this is all about bonding. Discovering oneself isn't about, being a recluse and being that hermit. This is actually the only time we can discover ourselves and ourself in this, illusion of separateness is actually to interact with other people. So the most important in the abstract circuitry, because this is how we can hone in on, what is it? Why are we here? What is happening? It's this discovery piece. So this channel determines both the vitality of an experience as well as its value. So wait to be asked. This is learning by immersion. We don't learn by you and me just sitting here, you soaking this in. This is, now you have to experience it. Now you have to go out into the world and experience your God code, the correctness of yourself, interacting with others, so that you can absolutely watch and witness in every experience how you are totally discovering yourself as you immerse yourself in the experience. And it has to wait to be asked. If you have this full channel, you are either a generator or a manifesting generator. We have to be asked. Our energy has to be requested. The minute our energy is requested, then we will know through response, either in that moment or through clarity, whether or not that decision is for us, period. So half-assed commitments will never bring the full discovery of the self or the experience. Entering correctly, then let go of the expectations. Lose yourself in the experience to discover it, and you will feel great accomplishment. So you have the potential for new realizations and the perseverance to stay with an experience until it is complete. You are a well of stamina. So hold on, your well of stamina, your well of stamina is accessed through your gut response, which allows you to be in the right place at the right time. A clear commitment is vital to the satisfaction you can derive and the wisdom you will be able to share from your discovery process. You must be able to lose yourself in the experience without looking back, even though the experience may not necessarily make sense. Oh goodness, I apologize. So you must be able to lose yourself in the experience without looking back, even though the experience may not necessarily make sense to you while you are living it. And again, this is the cycles. We have absolutely no idea, no realization, no sense of why we're in an experience until it comes to a close. So the end of a cycle is where you find your ultimate discovery, and following your gut response and surrendering your expectations will provide the potential to succeed where others have failed. Now, the importance here is this isn't about trying to figure it out. And it's about allowing for that natural close of the cycle if you've entered incorrectly. And when that happens, then you can come to the realization. But all too often, here's what happens here in this circuitry. The 53-42, beginning, middle, end. But remember when we talked about the format, it will get bored if there isn't a new experience. So all of a sudden, human beings will jump into new experiences without fully coming to the realization of why the first one happened. And without that discovery, then we continue to get locked into these cycles and we never actually come to an accomplishment. Now, I am, a manifesting generator, and having accomplishments day in and day out just is my driving force. I love to accomplish. And if I haven't accomplished anything in a day, I have not used my energy correctly. So having the 53-42 and the 29, it's been, a full, sense to me. I have full sense as to that accomplishment, that feeling of accomplishment, understanding or sensing an accomplishment or not. So the 29 is the gate of saying yes. It's the abysmal. Now, what's really important is that, you understand that this gate of saying yes is also the gate of saying no. Because there's always the duality here. So, I have the 40th gate, which is the gate of denial, which is aloneness. I have the 34-20, which is the channel of charisma. That channel of charisma, it's not about me using my personal power, my personal energy for anybody else but myself. So, yeah, I say yes to things. However, I also deny a lot because it's my energy. Okay? So, the gate of saying yes, this abysmal, it is sacral, it's collective abstract sensing, it's the past, it's sharing, it's visual. The small group skill is commitment, and the family here is world. Now, I apologize I didn't write that there, but you will see it on the slide as we walk forward. So the perseverance of discovery, it will make a commitment or not, period. It can only be accurate of the commitment when asked. Again, the 29 being in the sacral, whether you have the sacral center defined or not. Remember, all of this information is tied up and is part of the keynotes of this gate. So you might be a projector with the 29th gate hanging dormant off of your sacral center. Well, there still needs to be a request, or your energy needs to be asked to commit to the group. So you fall into the abysmal and just sink in. The thing to understand about the commitment to any experience is that if you are not correctly committed to the experience, there's no way you can find transcendence in this mundane reality. Transcendence is collective and individual, not tribal. That is really important. So when we talk about the formatting gates, this is a cyclical transcendence. In this particular, with the 5342. The tribe doesn't have transcendence. The tribe only wants to procreate and nourish, and then, make more. And the tribe wants to be able to have the resources to continue on with the tribe. That's it. It's not looking for transcendence. It wants to lock you into a bargain, lock you into a contract. It wants to lock you into its ceremonies, its hierarchical expression, and that's it. It doesn't want to transcend. The abysmal is a deep, dark place where you do not know if you will see the light. The experiential process always starts in the dark. So we see this in the 36 as well, right? This 36 had, the darkening of the light. There's this, contraction down, this darkening, and then we get to expand in. Now the abysmal, there's so much in here. You could study the 29th gate for a very long time and watch people that have the 29th gate. And if you have the 29th gate, you can get really, deep into this, like the commitments and the abysmal and understanding all that deep, dark information. It's a lifelong process. That's one of the cycles. So you're always eager to say yes and commit. So be very careful where and how you commit your energy and follow your strategy and authority. When you answer yes, you are committing your energy to something or someone new, which will require you to persevere through whatever your cycle of discovery brings. Each correct commitment supports you in reaching your fullest potential of discovery. When you make the right commitments, you have a single-minded energy designed to move you through even difficult or challenging circumstances. Once you say yes, it is important to let go of any expectations to avoid frustration and disappointment. You will never know until the end where your commitment may take you. So enjoy the ride. Let's look at this now from the standpoint of a small business or a small group. We're going to do this and then we'll go into the family aspect of it. So if you have the 2946, what you're going to notice is having that channel, there's this immediate pull that happens for you to enter into a small group. Now, I introduced you guys to Pentas at the beginning of this section. Pentas are from 3 people up to 9 people. And then once we have the 10th person, we can actually pull off into WAs. Or like into a WA, where 3 pentas will begin to organize into this group of WA. Now, the small group here, I always talk about the 2946 because in the body graph, how the energy wants to work. It wants to move from the head to the throat. It wants to move from the root up to the throat. So this pressure sandwich. But the Penta actually works unidirectional, meaning it will move from the, this is the 15 down to the 5. This is the 46 down to the 29. Then they go over to the 14, up to the 2, and then up here it moves over to either the 17 and the 30, or the 7 and 31, or to the 8 and the 1, or over to the 1333. So there is this movement that has to happen. And in a small group, as soon as you have all of this energy, then the small group is functional. Without it, it's dysfunctional. And there will feel like there's things missing. So we're going to talk about that as we walk through here. So for the 4629, this whole entire channel actually creates this aura stabilizer because it coordinates and then has the group commit. So it draws the separate frequencies closer together and homogenizes them into the group phenomenon. It helps erase potential tension within the group. It is kind of like a tranquilizer or a sedative. It kind of like, it brings you in. It brings in this coordination. It has people commit. It allows different people and personalities to all move together smoothly as one. This creates the group's auric bubble. So the 4629 stabilizes the Penta itself through the homogenizing of auras. Remember, the group doesn't give a rat's butt about you. The group wants to progress and make money. That's all a group wants to do. Okay? So it is constantly working to create group harmony as people move in and out of the Penta's auric field. This is where non-threatening competitiveness lies. It removes the rough edges of competitiveness within the office itself and others who come in from the outside. This is where the Penta becomes a single entity and takes on a life of its own. So the discovery brings force and innovation through the coordination and commitment. So discovery is about evaluating the past and understanding the environment. Going through things in order to discover anomalies, things that don't work, things that could be very successful. Remember, when we look at this in the just the individual aspect or the human aspect, this is about, succeeding where other people fail or failing where other people succeed. That's what the 2946, that's what the design is all about. So it is focused on the basic issues having to do with the social interaction in any kind of environment. This helps create the business-to-business relationships with outside suppliers or vendors, because this is actually going out into the world, and you're going to see this when we look at the family dynamic. Okay, this is really about the outside world, not the inside, but the outside. It coordinates and makes this commitment, and then that committed, stable aura is able to then go out into the world. So this helps, this allows people to feel stable and secure enough to function on behalf of the Penta in the outside world. This is the pillar of the team personality. So the well-being of the Penta is dependent on harmonious relationships, which become the consistent immune system for the Penta. The aura stabilization is the Penta, is to the Penta what sexy is to the human being. It brings a sense of pleasure to the group, which makes it feel good because it's stabilizing, right? There's some coordination. All of a sudden people can commit. It feels very sexy. It feels very good to be a part of a group where the group is coordinated. They're not all over Hell's Green Acre, right? So When commitment is present, that's why, and we're talking now about just the 29, okay, the commitment. When the commitment is present in the group, everyone is on the same page and trusts each other. So the whole group is loyal, reliable, and dependable, and everyone is, in it gets along with each other. Everyone is committed to the goals, there's a direction, there's a purpose, and there's a vision for the group. Everyone, feels like they belong and are an integral part of the team, and everyone is taking care of their own responsibilities for the good of the group. So the gap in this commitment, if there is no commitment, say there was, nobody carried the 29th gate in a group, all of a sudden the group doesn't feel like, anyone is committed, there is no commitment, and then all of a sudden that group isn't going to feel so cohesive. If there's a gap, right? So this is the ability to help the group commit to a goal and achieve it. We're all on the same page and committed working together. The individual theme is perseverance and saying yes, but in a group, this is saying yes to being committed to the group. It's all for one or one for all. This instills a sense of loyalty. This is supporting the goals, purpose, and direction of the team and doing the work necessary to support that. Everyone in the group is the insider and has a sense of belonging. This forms an us and them team spirit to compete with the groups. It gives everyone a sense of camaraderie and motivation. Everyone commits and dedicates their energy for the good of the group. This puts the energy behind taking the business where it needs to go, and it is the investment of time and energy dedicated to making the business work. Individuals feel a sense of purpose and pride in working together to accomplish team goals. Remember, the abstract side as an individual, just on your own in your body graph, wants to accomplish something. Now, there's also an accomplishment here, but all of a sudden we're bringing in team goals. But remember when I said in the personal aspect, there is no goals on this side. It's just to discover. But here, because we're in a team, there's team goals. So it is like the second leg, which gives the energy and commitment to the first stabilize in order to move forward together. So when we move over to the logical side, we're going to talk about this first leg here, really. These legs that allow for this whole thing to stand up. So commitment, when you have the 29th gate, what you'll notice is groups will pull you in because they feel that once they get you in there, then you bring this sense of commitment, and all of a sudden the group feels more stable. Okay? Now, this doesn't mean that, you're only going to work in small groups. That's not what it means. I just want you to know that this is a skill that you present to the group. This commitment, this skill of commitment. And with that skill of commitment, the group, you become sexy to the group because it's like, I can be loyal when there is a committed energy in the group. Has nothing to do with you personally. I will be honest with you, groups have nothing to do with us personally. It just is bringing in our energy because it knows, that transauric field can sense it and brings it in. I know I'm sounding like the transauric field is like, is conscious. To me, they kind of are. Now, the family piece of this. So if you have the 29th gate, this is about going out into the world. So as a family, what you'll notice is that this 29th gate, when you have it, all of a sudden it's easier for the family to then, come together and go out into the world, to have experience, to learn the outside world, to experience what's out there. If there is, if nobody in your family has this 29th gate and there's a gap there, it really is going to be hard to get out the door to discover the outside world. You guys will feel more inclined to staying indoors, staying on your own little family and not experiencing the world. So I have this, and it's really interesting because I have a family member that always wants me a part of what's happening with her when she goes to discover the world, because she doesn't have this. So going out into the outside world is, a little bit of a daunting task. So now let's just go back to the individual. Now that you've seen how it works in small groups, you've seen how it works in a family, you've seen what happens if it's not there as well, briefly. Now let's go back to the individual piece of this. So the gate of saying, oh, look at that, I missed the yes. The gate of saying yes, the abysmal. So the deep within the deep, okay? Persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable reward. The 29th gate is persistent. And the 46 is determination. So there's persistence and determination in this discovery process. Again, more keynotes for you to throw into the mix of understanding the holistic view of a person's chart and your chart and watching this all play out. So the right angle cross of contagion. You convey concepts to your fractal by committing to making a contribution. Now this is my this is my incarnation cross. This is my whole purpose. It's about being in that deep within the deep, being persistent, saying yes when it is correct, being in that abysmal, and knowing that I can convey concepts to my fractal when I commit based off of a response, and then I can make the contribution. So the juxtaposition of commitment, commit to what life has to offer, responding to the correct commitment. And then the left angle cross of industry, busy responding to the next manifestation through commitment. Now let's walk up the line here and just talk about the 29. So the very, very core base of the 29th gate, the foundation, is the Drafty. Isn't this interesting? So the ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. So for me, the 29, the opposite gate is the 30. So the 30 is the fates. So when I look at this foundational line, we can play around and do this as well. When you look at the gate across the mandala, because that gives another nuance to the particular gate that we're talking about. So I look at this as though the fates, the draftee is called in by the fates. You're drafted by the fates. And there's this ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. So the innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace, the power to persevere when necessary, but not generally. Once the commitment is there may be a struggle. And then to persevere through that struggle, because on the other side, there's a discovery. So a deep impressionability whose mark from times of struggle may make a return to the normal conditions extremely difficult. Hesitation in making commitments based off of past experiences. And I look at this and I go, this kind of reminds me of being drafted into a war. All of a sudden you're marked or scarred for life based off of this draft. And all of a sudden there's a hesitation to make commitments because it's like, whoa, I was drafted into that last commitment and it hurt. There was some pain there. So it's about watching how all aspects of this, play together, war and peace. The natural, ability here of this abysmal is assessment. So the persistence tempered by caution. The power of sustainment as a guiding light, saying yes, and the power to persevere. A tendency to over cautiousness when persistence is perceived as adding to rather than ending disharmony. Caution in saying yes when persistence leads to disharmony. The third, again, remember that, the third is this trial and error. It's evaluation. Now, interesting, because the whole entire circuit really is this clarity that has to happen. So there's this little bit of evaluation. What am I going to commit to? And evaluation isn't a mental process. This is a body process. The body will evaluate what it is going to commit to or not. So in this context, properly assessed inaction. Despite the urge and the cost of inaction, the knowledge that it is sometimes better to fight another day. The power to wait. A preference for withdrawal, in principle, with little regard for effect. The inability to make commitments and the power of caution. The evaluation process, what do I commit to, what do I not commit to, is a body response. So the gate of saying yes, directness. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And I love this because, do you know what's really funny? Is that we are in a quantum physics process here in human design. So the shortest line between 2 points is actually to, fold it in half. It's not a straight line. Well, it is a straight line. Sorry. It's folding versus, moving from one point to another. It's this folding and bringing the points together. If that makes sense to you. So the wisdom to use the simplest and most direct approach to solve difficulties. The power to commit oneself to the simplest and most direct approach. So if we're going to commit, let's be completely direct. Let's, fold this over. Let's have the most simplistic and direct approach to using this energy. So simplicity and directness, all too often seen as inharmonic and aesthetically crude. The power of directness often offends others, and we see this as well. Where people come in and they're very committed and they offend other people because of the power that is held in this 29th gate. When people are too direct, other people kind of cringe. But this directness is how it's actually, externalized. This power of saying yes, this abysmal, this persistence. It's about directness. That's how it externalizes itself out into the world after, it knows that there's going to be some adaptation. It's going to assess, and then it's going to evaluate, and then poof, that directness to using that energy. Then there can be overreach. Isn't this interesting? The very, highest function of this 29th gate is overreach. So a tendency to bite off more than one can chew. Seems, quite, it seems a little negative. So the Sun exalted, where the drive is in the design and not ambition driven. The uncontrollable drive to say yes. So where the drive is in the design and not ambition driven, that's important to understand. Is that, biting off more than you can chew, a lot of times as long as the body is moving you, it doesn't feel as though it's more than you can chew. Because the drive itself isn't about, mentally being driven. It's about the body making the commitment. Failed ambition, saying yes, overextending one's resources, and then failing to persevere. Making the commitment and then overextending oneself and being absolutely exhausted, because one's resources, the resource here is the energy. This is the actual, human battery. And then all of a sudden you can't persevere because there's exhaustion. And, honestly, where I see this the most is in the projectors or the advisors that have this 29th gate. Because there is a lot of punch here. There's a lot of energy here in this 29th gate. And they will overcommit and absolutely not come to clarity prior to their commitment. And then they exhaust themselves very quickly, overextend themselves, and, have a hard time coming out on the other side. Now, I'm not saying that a generator or a manifesting generator can't have this overreach. I see it as well. I have a friend that has this, and man, oh man, she takes on a lot all the time. And as long as the physical body, if we're paying attention to the physical body, then we can also, pull out of those commitments if the cycle has come to a close naturally for ourselves. That's the piece of design where when we have this, 30,000 foot view of the life and of the body graph and watching this all happen. For the most part, what humans do is we commit and then we push through, and our own personal cycle has come to a close within that. And yet we push through. So again, the example that I can pull up is me being at the bank, and they were changing out their computer systems, and I just knew the minute that was announced, and it was a 3-year process, I knew that my cycle was coming to a close and I wouldn't be entering into that new cycle. Now, the bank still continues. The bank didn't quit because I quit, but my natural cycle came to a close with that old computer system. So it's about watching the overreach. Maybe, I don't know, there's probably a ton of examples that can be spoken about here. But just because whatever the project is, or whatever the discovery is, you might have naturally come to a close of your own cycle and have discovered what you need to, and your commitment is now done, but the project itself may be continuing. And that's okay. And what I see in this overreach is where people don't honor that natural closure of cycles and they continue on. And then I love this, right? The 6th gate, we're looking out, we're on the horizon. The 6th gate is actually looking over to the 59, and the 59 is all about achieving union and this, coming together and this sexual energy. And we go from this abysmal of saying yes to, confusion. The state that exists when momentum outstrips awareness. So the 29th gate is persevering, and all of a sudden, that momentum will outstrip the actual awareness piece. So isn't this interesting? Because really the 5 and the 6 kind of feel like they're a little bit of a negative aspect of the hexagram. driving blind and giving, Mars's energy and determination, often blind luck, the power to persevere that makes absolutely no sense. So a tendency and confusion to withdraw rather than accepted the conditions and continue to persevere, the power and confusion to caution rather than saying yes. So again, we're looking at this highest expression, which is overreach. So the 29th gate at its highest expression will overreach. It's going to bite off more than it can chew. And then on the horizon, there's this perseverance that absolutely makes no sense. However, does the human experience really make any sense? The whole, why are we here? Does any of it make any sense? But the perseverance of humanity to just, trudge along and go on into the horizon. Now we're going to move to the 46th gate. So the 46th gate is this gate of determination, this, pushing upward, determination of self, it's pushing upward. It's a gate of love of the body. So there's serendipity, right place, right time. Why do we say that? It's in the G-center. The G-center, the motto that I taught you guys is that right place at the right time. It's about sharing. There's a vitality here. The small group, we looked at that, was coordination. We just, saw it on the chart. So the 46th gate is the beginning point for the splenic. The splenic gates in the quarter of duality. So the physical body, the vessel. Then each one of the gates after this 46 in the quarter of duality all lie in the spleen before we move on to mutation. So if the physical body, if we are not honoring this temple, then, the next 7 gates are going to just be painful. There's going to be so much fear there because the physical vessel has not been loved. So when you take the body transcendently, you can actually stop hurting it. Now, why do we say that? Like, if you can see this at a 30,000 foot view and just know the miraculous aspect of your human body, like there are, red blood cells being made and you don't have to think about it. There's toxins being removed from your body and you don't have to think about it. Your eyes, they blink and you don't have to think about it. There's so much happening there. But we take it for granted. And then the minute we take this body for granted, guess what happens? The health and well-being is, in jeopardy. Transcending fear is to accept the beauty of the body and its perfection. Our vessel is so unique. There are trillions of things taking place within this body that you have no conscious access to, pushing upward into the kingdom of heaven from the deep, dark depths of the abysmal. So this is focused on the quality of life you experience in the physical body. It's the love of the body. Your determination is often rewarded with the experience of serendipity that leads to discovery, good fortune, and succeeding where other people fail. Your success or failure rests in your personal determination and the determination of your higher self. It is important to surrender to the cycle of experience. Each experience has the potential to bring fulfillment to your potential or chaos. The lessons you learn from the wisdom you share with others is derived from your determination and absorption in the experience as you live it. Trust your strategy and authority to physically put you in the right place at the right time for the magic to happen. And again, my husband has this, and he actually has this 6 times in his body graph. And here's, what amazes me is he really abuses his physical body. He consumes alcohol, he smokes. Even though, I provide very healthy, half-assed healthy meals. I'm not going to say like they're like super healthy. He doesn't, he still doesn't want to take in the best nutrition for his body. And what's very interesting is that so far he's been pretty healthy, 51 years old, and has had no major health issues. And then, of course, the 30,000 foot view of his body graph, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that plays into that. But it's about watching how the miracle of our physical body is beyond our comprehension. And when we can love it, life becomes this discovery process. So when we look at this as a, small group dynamic, this is about coordination. So once we can coordinate the group, so there are people that are team players and are brought in together to make this feel good, right? There's this quality of group presence. Everyone has a feeling of camaraderie. There's a balance and harmony in the group, so it functions as a healthy manner. Everyone feels comfortable, stable, and secure in their environment. Group members feel comfortable interacting on behalf of the group out in the world, so the group can adapt to the changing market. If there is no coordination, there's no feel good, and there'll be tension among the people. This is the ability to stabilize a group into a cohesive functioning unit. This is where the group's personality is developed. The individual theme is the determination of self, love of the physical body, and the serendipity, the gift of serendipity and good fortune. In a group, this pulls together the body of the Penta, the team frequency. This makes the group feel good, working together and going out and interacting with customers, clients, and suppliers. This helps the Penta interact with the markets in a coordinated way so it can figure out what is required to adapt its product and service in an ever-changing market. This is the aura stabilizer over here, you guys. So without it, small businesses, and small groups, all of a sudden there's no coordination, and if there's no commitment, that group, there's no stability there, and the group won't be a group for very much longer. And the family aspect, this is discovery. Again, it's the aura stabilizer. You make nice. It takes the aura it takes the aura into a harmony. So the family, is pulled together as one, and it harmonizes to the outside world. If there is nothing here, again, it is difficult to get along outside the family unit. So discovering yourselves outside the family unit, going out into the world, can be a very difficult process if that isn't in the family. Now, when we get into that aspect of the family and then, walk through that a little bit deeper, I could explain this a little farther for you, but it's just so that you can see it now as we walk along the circuitry. So with the 46, this gate of determination of self and this pushing upward, this really is good fortune that may be perceived as the result of serendipity, but derives from effort and dedication. This is the right angle cross of the vessel of love. It's the third gate, or third cross in that, because the right angle cross of the vessel of love. There's different versions of it. So life is always asking you again and again and again to trust the rhythm of love that springs eternal within and through you. And this can carry you everywhere you go. There's the left angle, or sorry, that shouldn't say lux. That should say jux, for juxtaposition, of serendipity. So you bring a vitality and presence that can lead you into circumstances of great influence, where you trigger people to have a different, more agreeable perspective and appreciation of their lives. The left angle cross of healing, you bring a healing energy to others everywhere you go through your deep love and compassion. So, the foundation here is being discovered. So this dedication in obscurity that is unexpectedly discovered. Art for art's sake, any creative endeavor that is self-fulfilling, sooner or later recognized. The potential for creative success through dedication. So the ability to judge the potential of those in obscurity, but often solely to the benefit of one's own success. The determination to recognize and benefit from the success of others. So being discovered, this is a personal aspect. So here we are in this channel of discovery, and other people will discover you. Very interesting. And you will also discover yourself in the determination. So the natural aspect here is the Primadonna, a difficult and demanding nature that succeeds despite its behavior because the depth of its talents, the determination to succeed that may offend others. So naturally there's this determination, this pushing up, this success. It just happens. So unrealistic demands and offensive nature of egocentric mediocrity, the determination to be treated as a success before it has been realized. And then projection. So we also have projection in the third line. Very interesting, right? We usually just think about projection in the second and the 5, but projection's actually here in the 3. So a practical approach to good fortune that maintains the same patterns and attitudes that brought success and does not get sidetracked by indulging in further expectations, the determination to stay with what brings success. So a tendency through projection to treat a potential future as the present, leading to unjustified egoism and the loss of momentum and support. The determination to treat a projected success as reality. So very interesting, right? Here we are, our foundation is about being discovered, being that Primadonna, and this projection. That's what determination, that's the foundation of determination of self. And then when we externalize it, there's an impact. The ability, once recognized, to move rapidly from a position of obscurity to influence. The good luck which comes from being determined that eventually, in the right place at the right time, leads to recognition. A reaction in achievement that tends to bite off the hand that fed it. The determination in success to ignore those who helped create it. And then pacing. So the highest frequency here is pacing. Maintenance of proper rhythm that is intrinsically the maintenance of proper rhythm that in its instinctive practicality avoids radical divergence from successful patterns. The determination to stay with a rhythm which brings success. Now, what I want you to really recognize here, all of a sudden we're bringing some more logic into this, because logic, on the logical side, that's where the patterns are. So all of a sudden in the determination of self, look at all this rhythm and patterns that we're talking about. Again, when you look at the DNA and you look at the double helix of the DNA also runs through all of this keynoting and all of the gates, so that there's this holistic explanation and expression into the world. So an irrational rejection of the very patterns that have proven successful, determined to say no to the very rhythm that brings success. Now, if we look at, what is this looking out at? Integrity. All of a sudden we go from pacing, to this integrity. And the pacing, of course, is that highest expression. And then this is looking out at integrity. So the wisdom to secure one's identity through careful consideration of the restrictive potential of commitments. Commitments can feel restrictive. So the determination to say no to restrictive commitments. So isn't that interesting? Because on the other end, we just talked about this. Here we have commitments on the other end in the 29th gate. But the 46 says, no, I am determined here, and I am not going to identify with something that is going to be restrictive. So, this is moving to the integrity is moving into the 30th gate. So from the 46 on the wheel, we move into the 30, which is all about the fates. So in order to have integrity, then all of a sudden we have this movement. Sorry, that's incorrect. It's not the 30th gate, because the 30th gate's in the solar plex. So we're moving into apologize for that, the 57, which is this intuitive clarity. So integrity then leads us into our own intuitive clarity in the splenic center. So deceiving oneself and others by overextending one's resources and eventually being in the position of having to break promises, a drive for success that will not say no and will end up breaking promises. So, integrity is, leading us into the health and wellness of our body. When we have that integrity of, being determined and standing in that discovery, then all of a sudden we can have this, health and well-being of the spleen support our movement. Okay, so if you have this, watch how this plays out in the world. So if you have the 29 or the 46 or the whole channel, or if you have none of it, again, it's that recognition. Watch it. I watch this dynamic between my husband and I all the time. It's a very, very interesting dynamic. All right, on to the next one.